I'm Julian Jackson with Tanya Lechner with the Dynamic Agents. And again, we're going to be recapping our Motivational Mondays for LPT and, of course, talking about other things that will make you a more dynamic agent. All right. And so, Tanya, you want to go ahead and kind of get us started? What were some of the things we heard from Robert Palmer and Matt Hodges yesterday?
So they really just went into some really good topics for real estate in general, like kind of going back to the first couple weeks, how they talked about the back to basics, right? So going back to doing like the regular activities and keeping momentum, especially as the market has come to a slowdown, right? Because things are definitely not what they used to be last year, definitely not the year before. So we're having to put a lot more work in now as agents. So it's a lot of motivation, like the thing's called Motivational Monday.
Motivational Monday, right? Yeah, and I think the interesting part that they were talking about is it just boils down to if you've been in the market any other point in history, you may not realize like this is how it's been. You know, what people saw in the last couple of years was easy, and they didn't realize how easy it was. But now I think because of how easy it was, that also set us up for the NAR lawsuit. So when that happened, a lot of people are like, well, were we doing it wrong the whole time? And what amazes me right now is how many people think that we got it right and the DOJ and the attorneys made the mistake. You're just kind of like that, whether we agree with them or not, we got to follow what the DOJ says. And I remember hearing Robert mention, like, these are all the tools that we have now that will basically safeguard your entire business, because you have a physical box that you can put in front of people, and they're not going to ask you, like, what exactly are you doing? It's like, I'm bringing you a box full of stuff. You see exactly what I'm doing. And then the stuff that he's about to add is going to do the same thing for us. But I think the bottom line to all of this is Robert saying you might have found it easier before, but now you got to get back to grinding. And those who grind and are willing to do the work, they're the ones who are going to last in this business.
Yep, exactly. And the work you do now isn't necessarily going to result in anything that happens tomorrow or even the next day. It's probably not going to give you any results until maybe even December of this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that brings up a good point. So it just boils down to the whole immediate gratification thing. You got to start moving away from that. You know, our society, and he did mention that as well. He mentioned, you know, the fact that our society has gotten to the point where Instagram and getting likes and, you know, all the feedback from these different social media platforms, everyone's just like, oh, I can't wait to get the like for tomorrow, even though they're not getting any business from it. So it's more of a, how are you getting your business? And I like that you brought up this slide. I mean, it's like a collateral marketing system. Like, yes, there's social media, but are you asking for business or are you just looking for likes? You know, there's print marketing. Are you asking for business or are you just looking for likes or wanting people to see your stuff everywhere? So there's a point where you have to get back to the point where you realize, like, when you're running a business, you have to actually ask for people's business, but you got to do it in a way in which they're comfortable seeing you as an expert. And all the material we have will help you do that. And I think one of the big points Robert brought up was this is the market LPT was built for. And if people see this collateral marketing system, they go, people maybe a year ago were like, oh, that's cute. Well, it's beyond cute now, because now people are going to be like, why don't you have a box like that? And people are going to be asking, like, I see exactly what these agents are doing, because when they come in my house, they're bringing this package of material. What are you bringing other than a smile and a well-polished presentation? So I don't think that's going to fly anymore, you know. And as you and I both know from doing our mastermind, we've had people who literally said verbatim, I'm not polished. And they're getting extremely good results without being polished. The first video they do, they're like, people are responding to me in a raw state. It's not polished. It's not edited. I'm not even looking like I think I should look. I don't have on my best outfit. I don't even think I look right. And people are jumping all over these videos. So I think that's kind of a good indication of what the market is like right now and what they're expecting from us. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that this is also a really great visual on the funnel of what you talked about last week, because it's all about, like, the top of the funnel is going to be the awareness, And then it goes down, you get somebody to start considering you, and then they get further and further down until they're converted. And that's the awareness is really how you get people initially, which includes like the print marketing, social media, outdoor billboards, your presentations, everything that is external that people can relate, or have the awareness to before they even start to consider you as their realtor.
Absolutely. And I know we talked a lot about like, the mindset stuff. And I think I mentioned to the team members last week, when it comes down to mindset, it was about, all right, if I was going to give a keynote speech, how would I give it? It's a little different for me because I'm more of an instructor. I say I'm a teacher, not a preacher. But if I had to be put in that position where I am going to preach, you got to have your 3 points that you like to bring up on a regular basis, and you always touch on those themes. So mine was always like, you got to first get up. But that to me means being inspired. What inspires you to want to get up and get out of bed every day? And a lot of that has to do with who you hang around, making sure you're part of the right brokerage, making sure you're with someone that you look up to who can offer things that maybe you can't find for yourself. You put yourself around other people, like the mastermind we created, so that inspires you. You realize, like, man, if I don't go, I'm going to miss something. And so if you put yourself in that position where when you get up, when you wake up, you actually want to get up. You want to go do something. And then you have to show up. So once you actually decide to get up, you got to show up somewhere. And that's like using the mastermind again. Like people know at 10 o'clock, we got to be there. So they get up, they show up to the mastermind. Why? Because if they show up to the mastermind, they're afraid of missing out if they don't make it. And since even though we might have 10 people, 8 or 10 people in the mastermind, if 1 or 2 people do the assignment and they got really good results from it, all 10 people leave motivated. And so they're like, we can't miss out on this. So we got to be motivated somehow. I wake up because I want to be there. I show up because I want the information. And then someone's got to show out, right? So we always got to be prepared to at least give some, feedback in case someone doesn't do the assignment. But when the people actually do the assignment, which is the whole point of the mastermind, everybody's learning from that. And so we have at least one person show out. So my idea of a mastermind is exactly that. Like everyone has a reason to get up. They have a reason to show up. And we have several people that want to show out. And by show out, meaning deliver. And they do. And we've noticed that we get really good results from that. And I think when we think about it from that standpoint, everybody's going to have to find that reason to do those 3 steps, to follow that process, especially based on what's going on in the market right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a power in numbers for sure. So kind of going back to the mastermind, just people doing big things makes you want to do big things and keep up. Because if you're, like you mentioned, not getting up or not doing stuff, then you're not going to have anybody to compete with. And so having the mastermind to compete or show you that the things they are doing are resulting in really positive results, that's what you're going to want to do too.
Absolutely. And I think if people go over it and over it and over it again, it's like, you think this is difficult, this is hard, but then you watch your peers do it, and you're like, maybe I just didn't want to do it because I'm lazy, or maybe I'm overthinking this, or there's a bunch of reasons why people don't do certain things. But when you're part of a group, part of a mastermind, that peer pressure, that group approval matters. And we've started to see more and more of that with the mastermind, because I think even the people who are saying this stuff seemed uncomfortable. Okay, maybe that's true, but when they show up, we know they want accountability. We know they want someone to tell them where they're falling short, maybe catch their blind spots, have somewhere they can bounce these ideas off of, someone that can track the numbers for them. So hopefully, as everyone's watching what we're doing, they're picking up a little bit of habits from everyone. I used to always say this when I was in the military, when I was around other really strong officers. It's like we all bring toolkits, but my thought is when we get together that all of us will have more tools in our kits from knowing each other. So
Yeah, it's true. And something I actually realized, you touched on it a second ago, but I just realized it, this a few months ago, is if you're not doing things that are uncomfortable, then
right.
you're not growing. And so I've been like really pushing myself to do uncomfortable things at least once a week. Like that's my goal. I'll go to some networking event that I might not want to go to, or do something that I don't want to do because it helps me grow more as an agent and as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know we've been looking into the idea of, how do we bring more people to our teams, from the attraction standpoint, and that can be uncomfortable. And so, from a lot of perspectives, I've seen people who are like, "Well, I'm not a recruiter." Well, I mean, if you go watch a good movie, you're not a promoter or recruiter for the movie either. But if you like the movie, you're going to tell everybody about it. And people are like, "Yeah, I guess that's true." So you're not running around looking for people to recruit. You're just letting people know how excited you are to be at your brokerage. And if people pick up on that, they'll kind of go, "Yeah, well, what are some of the reasons?" Well, for us, it's kind of simple. Like the freedom that we have from agent choice, um, kind of makes this a lot easier. And then look at the mastermind we're developing. We watch our CEO kind of say he's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to take the tools and share it with everyone. And he's actively being involved. I've just never seen any other, forget CEO, I've never seen a broker spend the time to do that. Like, let me show you step by step all of the tools. They literally are, a lot of times they're like, the tools are there, figure it out. I've seen some that give training and coaching. I'm not going to say they don't do that, but not to the level where they're like, no, I'm going to show you how to take one piece and just how to make that one piece work. And then every week, we're going to keep doing that over and over. So sometimes being a leader means you do have to, as Robert said, go back to the basics and remember that some people need to see that example. And maybe this brokerage is exactly the reason why some people will make the switch and make the change, because they're realizing, like, if we don't do some of these basic things, and we didn't learn those when we first got started, it's not going to work the way it did 2 or 3 years ago. And that has to mean something to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I've just put this slide up here because I thought it was relevant, and it says, the future depends on what you do today, which is exactly what we've been talking about. Whatever work you're putting in right now is what's going to result in you being successful or not being successful, because it's easy to lay around and not get up out of bed or binge watch some show on Netflix, right? And I loved your analogy about the movie, kind of like going back to the recruiting or telling somebody about your brokerage, because I do the same thing with like restaurants, right? I'll tell everybody about a great restaurant that I go to, or I'll even write a Google review. And so if we had any type of like LPT reviews or anything like that, I would totally have writing on those blogs all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, we can definitely do that. Uh, I created the Facebook page for the group, and I don't know if you have had a chance to go look at it yet, but if you have, I mean, if you can bring it up if you saw it. I don't know if you got a chance to do it, but it's facebook.com/dynamicagent.us, I believe. Dynamicagents.us. And that particular page kind of shows, like, all right, yeah, there's places to brag on there and give reviews. You can, and that's kind of what we're going to do. It's going to be like the place where we show our case studies, our testimonials, um, the material for people that want to be recruited. Yeah, that's it. And if you want to, you can scroll down and show, like it says right there, top producer, team leader training. There's a lot of people, in my opinion, that they don't realize like how important it is to always wanting to be striving to be better than where you are. So part of what they're thinking is, well, what if I don't want to be a team leader? What if I don't want to be a top producer? Well, you don't have to be. But what I learned when I was training to get in really good shape, something extremely interesting. And I used to start, when I was a personal trainer, I had to start telling my a lot of my clients this, because they weren't hearing me. And they'd be like, oh, I don't want to do bodybuilding. I was like, bodybuilding is the fastest way to get in the best shape of your life. But they're thinking about what the bodybuilders look like when they're extremists. And so they'd be like, well, I don't want to do that much work. I'm like, I got to figure out how to get them to do the same level of work without them knowing it. And I was training a lot of women back then. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to put you on a bodybuilding program. I'm going to put you on a body sculpting program. And they're like, oh, that sounds great. And I'm like, awesome. And guess what I put them on? The bodybuilding program. Because I knew if they worked their butts off the way we did in bodybuilding, they would get to their goals much faster. Didn't mean they needed to go to that extreme. But let's say you're trying to get to the point where you want to get on a stage and compete against other people. Well, you're going to do everything you can to, in the fastest way possible to do that. Well, why would you not want to do that even if you don't want to get on the stage? Let's say you're like, I don't want to get on the stage, but I'd like to look better. Well, the fastest way to do that is by doing the same thing the ones that are on the stage are doing. And that's what I would call like our top producers and our team leaders. You don't have to be a top producer or a team leader, but if you want to learn those skills so that you can get whatever goals you're trying to get faster and at least hit them, it's like turn on the faucet until you get to full blast. And then once you have it at full blast, you can scale it back as little or as much as you want. It's up to you. But you got to have the skills or you won't survive in the industry.
Yep. No, that's so true. And it's all about the marketing too, right? Kind of like the body sculpting compared to the
Very good, right?
the bodybuilder, yeah. But I agree. I think that just wanting to learn more about real estate or like get out there and start training yourself, you don't necessarily have to be the top producer, the team leader, but it's getting you to start to be prepared or thinking about it or just at least making more money, right? At the end of the day.
Expanding your horizons, right? So what do you think about the page when you take a look at it?
I like it. I think it's really good. It's definitely, I mean, you have some good content on there, like these videos that you added. I'll need to put some interacting. Oh yeah, we have this too.
That's what and so some of the stuff like you mentioned, like how do we do our testimonials? These are like case studies. So if someone comes on and says, well, what's the difference between working with, LPT or dynamic agents versus being with other people? Well, if they come on our page, they can kind of see, like whenever we have an agent highlighted for doing something really well, this is one of the reasons you want to join forces with that. So whether it's part of our dynamic agents or whether they want to be part of LPT, we have it all kind of here for people to take a look at and make a decision.
Yep. It's always good to have options. I like it. I think it looks good.
Yeah. And of course, we're going to start posting all of our content from our recaps to this page as well. So anytime someone wants to review it, it'll be available there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, this was good.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, that's kind of our recap from our motivational Mondays from yesterday. Plus, again, kind of highlighting some of the benefits of, masterminding and helping with the mindset. Because I think in the end, no matter what we do, it's got to be mindset first. So yeah, I love the topic. When you brought it up, I was like, yeah, that's probably the best thing we can talk about right now, because I really do think what's about to happen come August is going to require some people to really dig down deep and start rethinking whether they really want to be in real estate or not. Because if you're not serious about real estate, if you decided you just want to jump in and try it out, you're not going to want to do this. You got to be here to serve. You got to be here to have a purpose. Your purpose has to be to help people. And if you're really someone who likes to educate, I think real estate will work out great for you, because there's so much you can learn. And what I want people to take away from today's training, if nothing else, if you're in real estate, you got to be thinking about when you go through all these extra training courses and you take all these extra courses, it can't just be about the shiny new object syndrome. Can't be, oh, that sounds good. Oh, I want to learn how to do YouTube videos. Oh, I love the idea of being able to post everything on social media. That's all great. But the true purpose should be that I want to learn this information so I can educate more clients, more consumers, so they will be better prepared and more confident when they go to purchase or sell their house.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's so true. Because even the same scenario, if you do want to create a YouTube video or Instagram or whatever, like your sole purpose should be to educate, because that's what I do on my channels. Like I just want to educate, whether it's other agents or home sellers, like that's what I'm doing essentially. And then, whatever you put out there is what you're going to get back, whatever work you end up putting into those platforms.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. But good deal. I think, for today, we'll wrap it up with that. But that's kind of the whole point of the mastermind and the groups, is to make sure that we all know what our mission is, and we remind each other that on a regular basis, so we're not like veering off on tangents and forgetting our purpose. So good deal.
So everybody can go leave motivated and start pounding the pavement, right?
Absolutely. There you go. All right, well, good deal. Well, that wraps it up for this week. We will see you again on our channel for Dynamic Agents next week. Again, it's Julian Jackson and
Tanya Lechner.
all right, you guys have a good one.
Yep. Take care.